everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to talk about the Queen's Court. This is docket 021918, which was titled Unfettered Testimony. So guys, before we get started on this week's docket for the Queen's Court, I just want to say that many of you know that yesterday, February 20th, was D-Day for small YouTubers like myself. We lost our monetization, but the good news is you can go back and watch all my videos. I have like over 300 videos, and you can watch them ad-free right now. And in the meantime, please, if you like the show, if you like the content, or even if you don't like the show and don't like the content, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to the channel. And you can subscribe to a channel and turn off notifications for the channel, because at the end of the day, I just need to get to 1,000 subscribers so I can get my monetization back. And I would just really appreciate it if you would help me do that. And I want to say a huge shout out, because I have gained, since this whole thing, the whole story broke last month, I've gained like 100 new subscribers, so I'm really appreciative of that. I think I'm like 8 away from 500 subscribers. And to those of you that's been with me since I started my channel in September of 2016, but I didn't really get rolling until like November or December of that year. But you know, I've grown the channel up to the almost 400 people since then. So for those of you that have been rolling with me since the beginning, y'all, I just want to say thank you. Love you guys for sticking in there with me and for giving me your feedback and everything. And so let's go ahead and get into the content. And I know I said I wasn't going to talk about the Queen's Court anymore until March 19th, when they were supposed to return to their Facebook live show. But if you guys have been following them, you know the stuff hit the fan this week. So I had to come with it, and let's talk about it just for a little bit. So I am titling this docket Unfettered Testimony. Let this be a lesson learned. So Kaya and Madison were together last week in Washington, D.C. doing a couple of shows. And I don't know if it was one show in D.C. or if it was multiple shows, because they were doing like a lot of Instagram live and stuff like that. So we did get video coming from the performance that they did, where they performed Next Caller. And then we had some behind the scene footage, like Kaya and I think it was Craig, the one they called Chi-Chi, where they were on the side of the road like they were panhandling, and then someone comes along and gives them some money, and Kaya says that she needs the money for her teeth. And you never see the person who gave them the money, but you know from the voice that it was T.S. Madison. So we thinking, you know, everything is cool, you know, they gonna be back on the air. They was just playing with us, you know, with this tit for tat going back and forth. Well, Kaya had announced that she was going to start a new show on Monday nights from 8 to 10 that was called Gag Order. Now, Kaya, I don't know how you came up with this title, Gag Order, because when a judge issues a gag order, that usually means shut up and stop talking. But Kaya did not shut up and stop talking. And as a matter of fact, when the show aired, I missed the show. Let's talk about that, because I had 10 p.m. stuck in my head. And so when 10 o'clock rolled around, I said, oh, let me go on Instagram and see Kaya's show. But the show was actually from 8 to 10. So then I had to wait until the next day for people, you know, to start posting videos or for her to upload it. But at 10 o'clock on Monday night, T.S. Madison went live. And so she was countering what Kaya has said on her show. And I'm like, oh my God, like, how can I see Kaya's show? So at the end of the day, this is what happened. Instead of Kaya having like a docket and talking about celebrities and doing the roast and gag like she usually do, she goes to start talking about T.S. Madison, about Funky Deneva, because if you guys saw the video, and this was why I said I was going to stop, I wasn't going to do any more recaps on the show until they came back in March 19th, because it just got like really low. And you guys know I don't like negativity and calling people names and all this stuff. And so Funky Geneva had did a video in response to a video that Kaya did. So Kaya was talking about what happened, and I think I did do a video after Kaya did her response, and basically was explaining what happened the night that everything went haywire a couple of weeks ago. So Funky Geneva did a video after that, and he basically like went in on Kaya, because Kaya has mentioned that she'd only met Funky Geneva one time, and he was snorting coke. She had invited him to some show she was doing, and he snorted coke or something, and she didn't, like that he was so open with his drug use and everything. So he was offended by that. So he went all in, was talking about Kaya's kids, talking about Kaya's grandkids, calling them out of their names. And you guys know that I am the parent of a special needs child. So when I hear people talking about other people's kids, I take that to heart, and I really don't appreciate it. So I was like, oh my God, this is getting so crazy. So Kaya, on her gag order show, instead of, just putting all this other stuff with Madison to the side and just going in and doing the docket of however she wanted to do it, she started saying that T.S. Madison was trying to steal the Queen's Court, but she wasn't going to fight with her about the Queen's Court. If she wanted it, she could have it. Actually, she said that in the video the week before, but now she's kind of changing her tune that T.S. Madison, can't take from her, and just basically just telling too much behind the scenes stuff that was going on, and how, T.S. Madison, they were trying to go on television, but she wasn't, down for all this. So basically, at the end of the day, Kaya is content being online, doing like her YouTube and her Instagram and making money that way, because she says she's been burned so many times by the industry, and she knows all this stuff that you have to go through. And she talked about, because people were saying, that she was jealous that she wasn't on Love and Hip Hop Miami, and she was basically breaking it down, saying, I didn't want to be on Love and Hip Hop Miami, and people were saying that, why aren't her kids on Growing Up Hip Hop, and just always coming for her and just having negative things to say all the time. So she was responding to that, saying that, when you go on these reality TV shows, you got to get out of character, and you got to do, whatever the producers tell you to do to secure your coin. And, she wasn't going to be, having sexual relationships with people, and just basically degrading herself and just doing whatever, going all out, for the sake of being on this television show. And then they don't really make a lot of money when they're on the shows. And she says that, she's always protected her family. And I thought Kaya had said once before that she was married, but then on a couple of Queen's Court episodes, it was like she wasn't married. So then she said again that, like, most people don't know that she has a husband. They want to call her a hoe and say she's doing all this stuff. And she said that, she wants to protect her family, protect her kids, protect her grandkids, and she doesn't like put them up for profit so that, other people can capitalize on her family, and to just expose her kids like some of these reality stars are exposing their kids, to all this negativity. And it kind of like had me kind of teetering, because I think when you're, doing these live videos and you're cussing and calling people names, and oh, and let's talk about the calling people names, because this keeps coming up too. So people in the gay community are outraged. Well, not even people in the gay community, people in general are outraged, that Kaya uses derogatory terms referring to gay people, the sissy, the faggot, the punk, and all of this. But they don't seem to be outraged. Like, in my opinion, and I think T.S. Madison brought this up also, was that her using those terms are no different than people calling women bitches and whores and skanks and sluts and cunts. It's the same thing. So if you're going to be outraged because the gay community is being called these names, then you need to be outraged when women are being called these names, or anybody is being called out of their name. When Funky Geneva called her grandson retarded, they're all derogatory terms, and nobody is more offended than anybody else. We should all be offended by the use of derogatory terms and kind of like remove that from our language. But, anyway, Kaya was saying that, she protects her family, that she has created a legacy for her family. She's created an inheritance for her family, that she doesn't have to pimp them out to reality TV shows in order for them to have money. And, once she's dead and gone, whatever they do with whatever she leaves them, that's on them. But while she's alive, she is instilling in her kids that no, you can't do this. And I kind of, I can relate to that because I know, being a single parent myself, I had to make the decision that either I'm going to continue, partying and being in the streets and dating the wrong people, or I'm going to have to pull back and be the example to my kids that, hey, this wasn't cool. This is hard. Being a single parent is hard, and just, making a better life for myself and improving, always working to get to that next level in my own life so that I can instill that in my own kids. And so I can understand where she's coming from with that, and I'm proud of how, my girls have turned out. So what else were they talking about? So then after Kaya, did her video where she was just basically, just giving more and more information about what was going on behind the scenes with her and Madison, and how, when they were in DC, that they were late going on because T.S. Madison had been paid, but she hadn't been paid for the show. So she was refusing to go out until she got her money, which was rightfully so, because how do you pay one person and don't pay the other person when they were supposed to be booked as a team? So she was, shedding information, giving more of her side of the story. So then when T.S. Madison came on her Facebook Live, she was basically saying, she had to clear her name, that, Kaya was calling her a liar and a thief, and that she had stolen the name Queen's Court, and, she was trying to profit it for herself. And so she was saying that that was not the case, that she, what's the guy? Justin J, I think is his name. He had did a video, and I guess in the video he made like a joke or something about how he was going to go and trademark the term the Queen's Court. So then she felt like, she pulled Kaya in, they sat down and talked, and she told Kaya, we got to trademark and get our copyrights and our domains and all this stuff before people steal this stuff from us. And she said that Kaya nodded her head and said she was okay, whatever you want to do, that's fine with me. So she's alleging that she's gone out and she's paid for the trademark, she's paid for the copyright, she paid, she said she paid $700 something for a domain. I wasn't understanding that because I got a couple of domains and I ain't paid no $700 something for the domains. I don't know what T.S. Madison got herself hooked into, but she was basically saying that she's put out all this money, she bought all the studio equipment, and that Kaya hasn't done anything. Kaya hasn't contributed anything to the Queen's Court's production, getting stuff lined up. And she said that once, when they were in DC, when she found out Kaya hadn't gotten paid, she called somebody named Adrian. Now, I don't know if Adrian is the YouTuber Adrian or if Adrian is somebody else, because they all seem to be connected and interrelated with each other. But whoever this Adrian guy is, Adrian Media, I think is the name of the company, she contacted him and said, hey, Kaya said she didn't get paid. And so then T.S. Madison said that she ended up, I think she gave the Adrian guy the money to pay Kaya, and then he paid Kaya. So it wouldn't look like T.S. Madison had paid the money or something like that. It was just like a whole bunch of messiness going on. So it was just basically Kaya blocked T.S. Madison off of all her social media like 2 weeks ago. I don't understand how you did a show last week, but you blocked on everything. But anyway, that's how they was rolling. I mean, it was just, none of the stuff is making sense. And so I think what needs to happen, because obviously they went into this thing and maybe they didn't understand how it was going to blow up, or that it would blow up as quickly as it did. But what I'm saying that they need to do is they need to pump the brakes. Okay, they need to just stop with all the videos, Stop with all the back and forth. Stop listening to everybody who has something to say about, what they should be doing. Just stop. Just stop before this thing goes over the cliff. And I mean, we keep watching because it's like, you're on the train and you see the other train coming, but you can't turn away. You're like blinded by the light. You just keep looking and looking because this train wreck is coming. And so, but on their end, they really need to pull back before this thing gets any uglier than it already is. And so it was just a couple of things that, Maddie was saying that, she got the domain, she got the copyright, she got the trademark, and then people were all in the comments was like, well, that's right, you should have did that and you shouldn't share it with her. But let's talk a little bit about copyrights and trademarks and domains. So number one, anybody can buy a domain. People buy domains all the time. People sit in their houses, watch TV, watch the news, watch music videos, and when catchy things come out and they think, oh my God, I can buy that domain because that's going to be hot. That's going to blow up. There are people that make a living off of selling domains. So when they see an idea or something coming along that they think is going to be big, they'll go out and they'll buy those domains in every format that they can think of. They'll do .com, they'll do .net, .org, .whatever with these domains. And then by the time you get to organizing and, realizing, hey, this thing done got bigger than I thought, you go to get your website set up and try to buy your domain, and you find out the domain is taken. And so what you can do is reach out to those people, because you go to Whois and other domain registries, and they'll tell you, who owns the domain. And then, or either when you go to the domain, like if you type the domain in and go to that page, it'll say on there sometimes like who to contact if you want to buy that domain, or it'll say this domain is for sale. And then depending on how much that domain is worth to you, you may pay them for it. So they may have paid $29 for the domain, $10 for the domain, but they end up making thousands of dollars selling it because somebody didn't think enough when they came up with their idea to buy their domain. Then copyrights. So you don't have to copyright anything you don't want to, as long as you can prove that it's your intellectual property. Now, where it becomes important that you do an official copyright comes to if you sue somebody for breach of using your copyright or your intellectual material, and you sue them, whether or not you registered that copyright will depend on the amount of money that you get, because there's a set amount that you can be awarded in the courts if you didn't register your copyright on an item. So I'm an author and I write a book and I don't register the copyright. That's still my book. Okay, that's still my intellectual property. So if you steal my book or steal parts of my book or whatever, and I find out, I can sue you for copyright infringement. But if I didn't register that book, I'm only entitled to a set amount of money. Now, if you register your copyright, then you're entitled to a whole lot more money. So in the case of me being an author and I find out that you stole my book and you were out there selling the book and making a profit, I can get like 10 times the amount that you made off of the book, plus damages. And, that amount is pretty much how much you're awarded is pretty much set by the judge, or if there's a jury or whatever. So saying that you copyrighted the Queen's Court means nothing if Kaya can prove that she was using the Queen's Court prior to T.S. Madison and Kaya hooking up and deciding to do that show together. So T.S. Madison going out saying that she copyrighted the Queen's Court really means nothing, because Kaya can still come along and object or sue her for using that, because if she can prove that that was her intellectual property before her and Madison entered into any type of agreement. Now, one thing Kaya did do, and when she did this last week, I was sitting there saying, Kaya, no, 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 don't do that. And that's when she was on her video, and she was saying, you know, if Madison want the Queen's Court, she can have the Queen's Court. She can have that title, do what she wants with it. And that statement may come back and bite her in the butt if this thing really gets messy and out of order. So then we move over to trademarks. Okay, so T.S. Madison saying, well, I trademarked, I got a patent and all this stuff. Filling out paperwork for a copyright or for a trademark or for a patent means just that. You filled out the paperwork. It takes, like in the U.S., 9 months to a year to get approved for a trademark. So she's like misguiding the public in that she now owns the Queen's Court. She doesn't own the Queen's Court. You don't own it until the trademark office say you own it, okay? And then two examples, Wendy Williams was saying on her show a couple of months ago that somebody was surprised. She was talking about, I think she was talking about the Beyonce and Jay-Z story, which I'm going to also mention. And she was brought up the fact that people are surprised that she hasn't trademarked that. How you doing? You know, everybody thinks that Wendy owns that's, you know, we relate that to Wendy Williams. When somebody say, how you doing? You immediately think of Wendy Williams. Well, Wendy said she tried to trademark that, how you doing, and that it was just becoming expensive. It had ran over a year, and she just got to the point, you know, because you got to have lawyers involved and everything, and it just got to the point where she said it wasn't worth it. Now, a lot of people have simple trademarks that, you know, nobody's claiming they own it. There's nothing else associated with it. And then a lot of times you have to prove like a secondary concept. Like you can say, okay, I use how you doing on my show, but then you have to use a secondary concept to show why how you doing is correlated to your business. So with Wendy, she can say, you know, people recognize her. She does that when she comes out on the stage to start her show. So even with the primary and the secondary concept, she still was struggling to trademark that phrase. And she said she eventually gave up. And if anybody else want to go through the trouble and try and trademark it and copyright it, be her guest. She kind of took the Kaya approach, but I don't know, Wendy. I'm thinking if somebody actually did try to trademark it, you would probably step in and say, no, I didn't mean that. I was just joking on the show. And so the other story is Beyonce and Jay-Z, because remember, they were trying to trademark Blue Ivy. And I think they ended up trademarking Blue Ivy Carter, but they want to trademark just the Blue Ivy. So they filed the paperwork for the trademark, and then there's a wedding, I think the lady sells like wedding stationery or something, and it came up that this lady has a company called Blue Ivy, and her company was, she went into business like 3 years before Blue Ivy was even born. So she's prohibiting Beyonce and Jay-Z from trademarking that name because she was already using it, even though she never trademarked it. And I think the other day it was revealed that she told them she would sell them the name, or, you know, stop using the name and rebrand her company if they paid her like $10 million or something like that. But they turned it down and said no, they weren't going to pay her, that they would keep fighting for the trademark. So it's not that, I say all that to say it's not that easy to trademark. Doing a copyright is pretty, you know, simple. You just file the paperwork with the Copyright Office, and they do the research and make sure. But a person can come along and say you infringed on their copyright, and if Kaya can prove she was using Queen's Court before her and T.S. Madison started doing the show, she could technically challenge T.S. Madison doing the copyright on that name. So it's not who got it first, no, who got to the paperwork first, is who was using that intellectual property. Whose intellect, who created the concept, who said this is what this means to them. That's who owns the copyright, whether papers are filed or not. Then the next thing, I was thinking, and this is what gets people in so much trouble. When you're going to do a business, especially if you're going into business with another person, when they got together and decided we're going to do the Queen's Court together, they should have sat down, They should have did their business plan. They should have did their incorporation. They should have designed their model. They should have, it was like so much they should have done, and they wouldn't be at the point they're at right now. They could have agreed to copyright, trademark, get the domain together. They should have agreed who was going to pay for what. They should have assigned roles to each other. They should have, instead of being on T.S. Madison's platform doing the live, being on Kaya's Instagram doing the phone calls, they should have created pages, which they later did do the Queen's Court page, but at this point they was already imploding on themselves, that it was pretty much too late. But everything should have been done under the Queen's Court, and then they only produce content under the Queen's Court's page, under the Queen's Court name, and then it would have been in violation to be out on your own social media. They should have had non-disclosure agreements stating that they couldn't talk about the intricacies of the business with people in the public. It was, they should have came up with a financial system where instead of them splitting the money, from YouTube or whatever, bring somebody in who was responsible for the finances, and then pay yourself, because I do virtual assistant work on the side. And, the people that I work for, you need to don't be taking money out the bank account. You need to set a salary for yourself. You need to cut yourself a check where you're paying taxes and all this stuff, because they're going to have such a mess on their hands when this is all said and done. And basically what they do is they take the video from the Instagram Live and the Facebook Live, and then they each load the videos onto YouTube. And then when you start getting into copywriting and stuff like that, now one of them can go back to YouTube and say that this person is infringing on my copyright, and then they're going to mess around and all their pages are going to be shut down, and it's just going to be a mess. So on T.S. Madison's live on Monday night, she pulls up some documents, and this is where it just got so crazy to me. So she claims that Nicki Minaj had reached out to them about doing a television show, and she's like, and here's the contract right here, and it says right here, T.S. Madison and Kaya and the Queen's Court. I'm just like, really, T.S. Madison, Nicki Minaj came to y'all about doing a TV show, and she gave y'all a contract that said T.S. Madison, Kaya, and the Queen's Court. Like, I'm thinking that we was doing some real contracts, wouldn't we have some real legal names? And would Nicki Minaj really do a contract with you guys, and you hadn't even at this point done the copywriting and the trademarking and solidified a business, gotten your business incorporated? Would she have really entered into this agreement with you guys? Like, come on, stop playing. Like, I don't know who, like, obviously I'm not your audience. I'm not the person that you're relating all this information to. So then she says that after the whole Monique, so I guess all this was happening during the Monique episode. So then she said that, well, she implied, she didn't come out and say it, but she implied that after Kaya walked off the set during the Monique interview, that the next morning they got a fax from Will Piker saying that he had made the decision not to bring their show to television. I'm just like, are y'all serious? Like, do you really, are people out there, well, people are out there just really eating this nonsense up. And I'm thinking, if y'all got a fax from Will Piker, it probably was the standard, it probably was when I was writing my first book and I was sending query letters out to agents and publishing companies about publishing my book, they would send me a letter back saying that, after consideration, we can't move forward with this, or we don't think that this is a right, manuscript for us to pursue, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sure what y'all got from Will Piker probably was just a standard rejection letter that they probably send out to the hundreds of people that contact them every day about doing the show. Because you guys, as hot as you are on the online presence, neither one of y'all are ready for television. Not to be, what television station would y'all go air the Queen's Court on with all that cursing, all that liability, talking about people and everything? I mean, it's fun for the online, you know, YouTube, Facebook Live, but I can't think of any major network or even any cable station that would take on the liability of bringing the Queen's Court onto their network in the state that it was and the status that you guys were at that moment. So I'm not buying it. And what else? I think that was it. It's just, they just being messy. They just being, I just think it's going to go too far. If they don't pull back and just stop, it's going to go too far, and feelings are really going to be hurt. And Kaya says that, you know, though, then people were saying that, you know, why is Kaya still going on tour with Madison, and why is Madison still going on tour with Kaya? Well, to answer that question is because they're under contract. They have signed contracts with these promoters to do these appearances, so they have to do those appearances, and if they break the contracts, there could be fees and fines. They may have to pay back money that's already been fronted to them. So that's why you may see them continue to do these shows, but I don't know. I mean, they put on a good front last week. I don't know if they're going to be able to continue to put on the good front. T.S. Madison, through her video, kept saying that she hoped everything, that when they came back on March 19th, that Kaya would be there with her and they would have resolved all their issues. Kaya, on the other hand, said she ain't coming back to do the Queen's Court with Madison, that it's over and done with her. So I think that this would just be a good time for them to step back, get off of social media, stop with the bickering back and forth in the public forum, talk things out, go see a mediator, and decide what they're going to do. Because right now, this is just another example of black people looking bad and looking crazy, and why nobody wants to deal with us. And, oh, before I go, so Kaya tried to open up the line. So y'all remember, one of her pet peeves with T.S. Madison was the fact that somebody had told her not to do the call-in show as part of the Facebook Live, that the call-in show should be separate. So that's when they moved the call-in show over to Instagram after the Facebook Live show ended. So Kaya said she was bringing back the phone calls, that the phone calls was going to be a part of the show. And I guess with Instagram, your video can't be more than an hour long, because when Kaya hit the hour mark, her Instagram shut off. So she had to go back up to do another video for the phone calls. So she couldn't get the calls working. She started out, she was like, oh, there's 30 people on the lines, there's X amount of people on the lines, and she done got up to almost 3,000 people on the lines, right? So she got one call to come through, and she talked to that person and everything. So then she couldn't figure out how to answer the next call. So somebody told her to do *6. So she did *6, and next thing we know, we had like 100 people on the phone line talking at the same time. I was dying, like, Kaya, what are you doing? So I don't know if she was doing that on purpose, trying to be funny, because I really think that all of this is a big setup. And I just noticed that when T.S. Madison did her video, she was naming, you know, she was giving out the number of people on her line calling in when she started taking calls. And I said, okay, so Kaya, you know, was shouting out numbers of people on the line, so now T.S. Madison gonna start shouting out. So I don't know if they really mad at each other, if this is a publicity stunt. I don't know what's going on, but I just know that they need some legal representation. They need some business branding, and I'm gonna suggest Dominique Price, if you guys follow her. I don't even know if Dominique do her Periscope anymore. She's a copyright attorney, and she used to do a Periscope where she gave out information on branding, you know, trademarks and all that type of stuff. And I may contact her on Instagram and just tell her to check this whole saga out, and maybe she can go over there and help Kaya and T.S. Madison get their act together, because she actually used to be the brand attorney for, I think, the Portland Trail Blazers and for another company, and she left that, I think Microsoft. She used to be an attorney for Microsoft. And so she has like a little testimony about, you know, her little legal career that's quite interesting. But anyway, guys, that's it for me. Leave your comments below and let me know if you're still tuning in, trying to figure out what's going on with the Queen's Court. If you're over the Queen's Court, if you've never watch the Queen's Court, and after hearing all this drama that's going on, don't plan on watching the Queen's Court. Leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.